Hi everybody, I'm Craig Power with Power Realty Advisors located in Hingham, Mass. And today we're doing a deep dive on flood insurance. Flood insurance, if you live in a coastal town around here, you've probably heard about it. Today we are talking about flood insurance and using my hometown of Marshfield, Massachusetts as an example. I grew up in the Brant Rock section of Marshfield. I remember as a kid, every couple of years, the Esplanade would get flooded there. And I'm coming at this from a real estate broker's perspective, not an insurance agent. I don't claim to be some expert in insurance. Really, my expertise is limited to real estate and progressive rock bands of the 70s and 80s, we'll call it that. In real estate, when you're looking at available listings in a certain area, you may see a remark that says property is located in a flood zone, lender will require flood insurance. So why do you hear so much about this? So your typical homeowner's insurance policies will not cover flood damage. So things like hurricanes, excessive rainfall, or snow melt. Rising tides, I guess, since we're talking about property near the ocean here in Marshfield, not covered under your standard homeowner's insurance policy. It may have coverage for water damage from stuff like a busted pipe or like a busted bathtub or something like that, plumbing issues, but usually not natural disasters. Flood zones are determined based on risk or risk probability. FEMA has created flood maps, and FEMA, of course, being focused on emergency management. So FEMA has created flood maps. We'll get into one here in a few moments, where they're taking into account all this risk assessment data. So they're looking at history of flooding, elevation, are you exposed to nearby rivers or streams? And it gets as specific as flood depth, as specific as are you facing a particular hazard like storm waves, right? Storm waves are worse off in some coastal areas than other coastal areas. So they take all this risk assessment data and they parse it out into different zone assignments, which is basically saying different levels and different types of risk. In Marshfield, in Scituate, in Quincy, in Duxbury, we have flood zones. We're surrounded by bodies of water, not just the ocean, but also rivers and bogs. And our weather patterns are constantly changing, right? So the threat of flooding is actually a relatively consistent thing. The root of the problem is it really doesn't take much water to do tens of thousands of dollars in damage and put you in a terrible financial position if you're not properly protected. Famously, Marshfield and Scituate both got croaked with a storm in March of 2018. High winds took down trees everywhere. There's a lot of floodwater damage in and around coastal areas. It can be disastrous. And you know, with global warming, and we use the term global warming, right? Not the Dick Cheney, cuddly, friendly term climate change. It's called global warming. You know, there is evidence to suggest that this might get worse in some coastal areas with ocean levels rising and eating away at the coastline. So, you know, this protection is mandated, is what I'm saying. One question you may have off the top is, who is requiring me to get flood insurance, okay? So you might recall you're out there looking at available listings online, you're browsing, you see a listing that says flood insurance required, and that's your first question, right? Who's the one doing the requiring? Well, I can tell you it's not the agent, it's not the seller, it's the lender. So for any home in a high-risk flood zone, lenders must, by law, require their clients to obtain flood insurance as a condition of their loan. It's a condition of their loan. Now, you don't have a loan, right? You own the home free and clear, then you're not required to get flood insurance, right? Free and clear of a mortgage, you own the home outright, you're not required to get flood insurance. But yeah, if you're getting a mortgage or if you have a mortgage, they're gonna tell you, yeah, you need to have it. Like anything else, the higher risk areas will have higher premiums, but it's not always expensive. The cost should be proportionate to the risk. Remember, if you're buying a home in a flood zone, your lender's gonna make sure that you have this insurance. You're not going to be able to close on your loan without it. So not only is it mandated by law, but the lender wants their investment protected. As we talk about and get into the classifications of different flood zones, let's take a look at the flood map and I'll explain it from here. So as an example, we're looking at the Hummerock Wrexham section of Marshfield. So what you'll see are really two highlighted areas. One in this lime green, yellow green covering some areas. This is labeled AE. Then we have some smaller coastal sections highlighted in purple and labeled as VE. These are two different flood zone designations according to FEMA. So AE, and this is a big area. People in Marshfield are always surprised just how much this covers. AE basically means it's a low-lying, lower elevation area that theoretically presents a 1% annual risk of flooding. Basically what they're saying is at this elevation, in this location, in the event of a flash flood, or really the risk here is a hurricane, that is the concern. That's what FEMA is saying about anything here in the lime green. So if you're buying a home with a mortgage, that's the caveat again. If the home is in the AE designation, you're required to get flood insurance. Moving over here to VE, the purple section, this is a different designation. FEMA is classifying this and saying not only is there a 1% annual risk of flooding, there is the potential risk of wave action or storm waves. They're telling you the VE zone is higher risk. They have a number attached here to represent a grade. So now with everything we said before, it makes sense. The higher the risk, the higher the flood insurance premium. You know, with at least what I know about the real estate market, I'd say AE zones, the insurance is usually fairly reasonable. You know, none of us like paying insurance, but it's fairly reasonable. Whereas VE is the most expensive. This is where you'll have the higher rates and you have to pay more. The question becomes, okay, I'm in this designation or this designation. How much am I actually paying for my flood insurance? So you have options, right? You have the federal flood insurance program, and then we have a private market for insurance. You can buy your insurance separate from the federal program on the private market. From what I understand, as far as key differences go, and remember, real estate guy, not an insurance expert. Most of my information comes from some guy at a bar somewhere. But from what I understand, you may have some very risky properties out there, right, that private insurance will not touch, straight up will not cover. And the federal program will always have a place for them in some capacity. By that same token, you may have less restrictive guidelines in the private market for insurance. There's certainly more competition on the private market. Competition generally better for the consumer or the policyholder, whatever you want to call it. The idea is that the federal program, or it's called NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, they tend to put things in certain boxes. So they look at stuff and say, hey, your elevation is this, therefore you fit into this box and you pay this much. The private market may have the opportunity to look at it and say, actually this is more nuanced. Your risk isn't as high as what their model is saying, and therefore we can offer you a lower premium. You can get higher or lower premiums between the two. It's not a one-way street. It depends on the situation. When you're out there house shopping, sellers are obligated to disclose any previous flooding or drainage issues. Sellers should also be able to, if they've been paying flood insurance themselves, they should be able to give you an estimate of the annual cost that they've been facing. So really, the major concerns you should have about buying a home in a flood zone, and if you're going to take anything away from this video, I hope it's just asking yourself these questions. Really, any major concerns you should have should be A, flood insurance can be expensive. What's the price? How much is it going to cost? B, how much coverage am I getting? You may not be covered for 100% of the remediation or replacement costs. And then C, if I can be real, even if you have incredible coverage, flooding can create a huge hardship. It can be a super disruption in your life, super stressful, even with the best possible coverage. Living by the beach or some other high-risk areas, it can be priceless to a lot of people. It's awesome. It's an amazing lifestyle. I know a lot of people who would say, hey, this waterfront property here, despite the risks, you know, this beach neighborhood, this is my dream location. And I can totally relate to that sentiment. I mean, sometimes I think I'll never be able to live in a town that doesn't border the ocean. You know, something about growing up in a beach neighborhood the way I did. But like I said, you know, the issues, even with the best possible coverage, it is excruciating to fight with insurance for months and months. It's an excruciating thing, and it's a real risk. The claims process is complicated and drags on forever. I used to live right next door to someone who had a huge tree fall on their house, and I think it was 8 months before a contractor even walked in the door to start fixing the place up. Those 8 months were spent living elsewhere, and I imagine arguing with an insurance company. Personally, I would feel very comfortable buying a home in a flood zone. Definitely less so in the higher risk areas, but overall the flood zones don't scare me off. However, I would bring in a home inspector, bring in a construction professional to take a look and tell me, hey, what are the real risks here? Especially take a look at the foundation, whether it's block or poured foundation. Hey, does this look right? Back on FEMA, Marshfield was actually able to obtain some discounts on the federal insurance. There's a guy named Joe Rossi who did a really good job organizing and planning ahead to a FEMA audit where essentially they had a scorecard and they scored enough points where per FEMA they qualified the town for 15% discounts on those policies. I believe that's federal only. That's part of the National Flood Insurance Program, but that was really cool to see and really cool to read about. The one last thing I want to say about buying a home in a flood zone is about, you're making a big investment here. And so you have to consider the resale value. As a real estate agent who works with a ton of buyers from Boston to Plymouth, I can tell you there are absolutely buyers out there who look at a house and say, that house is in a flood zone, not interested. This house requires flood insurance, no thanks. So that's something you need to consider when you're making such a big investment. You have to consider the resale. It might not be a deal breaker, but it's sort of like how people don't want to live on a main road or they don't want to live near a major intersection or a highway. It is a knock against you for some buyers, not for all buyers. But if they rewrote the maps tomorrow and your home is suddenly located in a flood zone where it wasn't before, that does affect the value, and it's not going up because of that. Similarly, if you were going to list a home tomorrow, you should reflect that in the price, right? Whether it's in a flood zone or not, you should probably take that into account when you're listing your home as well. That's it. We dipped our toes in the flood insurance waters. Poor choice of words maybe, but thanks for watching. If you are considering buying or selling a home in a coastal area and you're in need of a real estate professional, of course, this is ground we've covered before and we have a lot of experience in. You can always reach me by email. My email address is craig@powerrealtyboston.com. That's CRAIG @powerrealtyboston.com. Thanks for watching. See ya.